Manning here. Welcome to a news edition of the Garden Report. The Rockets moved quickly to introduce Ime Udoka as their head coach today down in Houston alongside GM Rafael Stone as well as owner Tillman Fertitta. Rockets adamant in their defense against any criticism of the Udoka hire, and Udoka contrite, vague in his apologies, and not pressed much to go into detail on his dismissal from Boston. Of course, accepted the punishment and decision by the Celtics to suspend him for the season and eventually fire him early this year when they chose Joe Mazzulla to replace him as head coach. This marked the first time we've heard from Udoka outside of a brief statement to ESPN since that suspension.
Well, I'd say in general, like Tillman alluded to, they've done their due diligence and homework on who I am as a person. I think we spent quality time together, getting to know each other, and we clicked pretty easily and pretty well. But overall, I released a statement months ago when everything happened, and apologized to a lot of people for the tough position I put them in, and I stand by that, and I feel much more remorse even now towards that, and so. I spent this last off season working on myself in a lot of different ways, improving in areas, chance to sit back, reflect, and grow. And I think that'll make me a better coach and overall a better leader. But the matter has been resolved, and I can't really speak much about it.
May, back here. As you reflect on what happened in Boston, do you feel like the Celtics were justified in the actions that they took against you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my part in it was to take ownership and accountability for my part. You know, they had a choice to make a decision, and they went that route. And my thing was own up to it, take responsibility, and I served the suspension and had to own it, honestly. So, same thing I'll preach to the guys. I can't sit here and not take accountability myself. So, it was their right to go about it however they wanted to, and that's the choice they took.
Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet.
Other than a few player comments over the last few days saying that they're happy for Udoka, we largely haven't heard much from the Celtics other than appreciation from players and Joe Mazzulla, who spoke last night and had to say this about his appreciation for serving under Udoka and the topic of forgiveness, which we'll get on in just a second.
Yeah, I'm happy for him in the sense that I think it's important. Second chances are important. Grace is important. Forgiveness is important. And so I'm a product of a second chance. And, I think it's important to have that in society. And so I texted him, congratulations. And then I was grateful just the time that I had to learn from him as a coach.
So Missoula, Smart, Horford, as well as Derek White, who played for Udoka in 2 spots, all positive and appreciative toward their time with Udoka and happy that he gets this opportunity here in Houston. And that became another theme in this press conference today. Stone, on the process through which they vetted Udoka, said that they spoke to a variety of people. Didn't elaborate much on that process. Udoka referred to it too when he said that Fertitta and others spoke to coaches, players under him, and I think his most forceful defense of himself through this press conference came when he said that he doesn't get caught up in social media and speculation and things being said. People who don't know the truth. The people that know me are what's important. And that's why he said it was big to hear from Missoula among players. And he did say he received a variety of texts congratulating him on this opportunity in Houston. In terms of choosing the Rockets, this is what I find interesting. Said this was the first job that opened. Certainly not the best job that possibly could have opened up to him. Now, who knows what will happen with the Rockets. Pistons, not a great situation either. You can probably argue that the Rockets are in a better spot than Detroit. But if they don't win the lottery and they don't land a significant addition in free agency, this is probably going to be another rebuilding year for Houston, and a tough one at that. 2 straight last place finishes, a third worst record this year in the league, tied for second worst. They're in the early stages, and when you look at Kevin Porter and Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün, good prospects who haven't taken steps. And you've heard a lot of familiar themes from Udoka in terms of tough, blunt, direct communication with players, which will be interesting to see play out here with a younger team, a team so much earlier in its development than the Celtics. As far as the staff goes, he said he's going to look at building that in the coming days here, coming weeks as well. Missoula also answered a question about that staff. When you look at Aaron Miles and Ben Sullivan and others here, of course, Will Hardy and Damon Stoudemire left during this year. These Udoka hires, you wonder, could they leave to Houston? I spoke to Ben Sullivan a few weeks ago for Boston Sports Journal, and he said he's 100% committed to the Celtics. I'd be interested in hearing from others as well. Tony Dobbins, of course, was a Stevens hire. There's some Stevens hires mixed in there. And interestingly enough, as I said in our report yesterday, Steven Silas, the former Rockets head coach, appeared at Celtics practice and the game last night. So wonder if he could be joining that staff. No word on that yet. He'll, Udoka that is, talk to internal candidates as well. But as far as the vetting goes, as far as what happened in Boston, Udoka apologized to people he put in a tough position. That's about as far as he went in terms of speaking specifically on what happened. And again, when asked, he said he couldn't address things directly for, I'm sure, legal reasons. And not much of a Boston presence. Of course, this happened quickly in the middle of the Celtics-Hawks series on hand in Houston. So I'm sure at some point, probably during Summer League or another opportunity, he'll face the Boston press, including myself, and answer some more tough questions about what happened in Boston. But Udoka, apologetic, looking for a second chance, and Tillman Fertitta, Rafael Stone, emphatic in their willingness to provide it to him. Fertitta saying anyone who criticizes the hire is not a good Christian person. We're a forgiving society and everybody makes mistakes. Some things maybe we shouldn't forgive people for, but I think what happened in his personal situation is something we forgive for. I discussed it with the president of the organization, who is a woman, and she was very comfortable with the situation, as well as talking to Paige, his wife, about it. We're a forgiving world, and anyone who isn't forgiving, then shame on him. So again, hard to gauge how to feel about this without knowing what happened in Boston. Though Fertitta said he heard directly from the NBA, which did feel good about how the Celtics handled this process of firing Udoka, that they absolutely approved of this hire. And that's what Fertitta said gave them the go-ahead to eventually make it. So Udoka, head coach of the Rockets. More reaction likely from the Celtics side of things as we go along here. But mostly, he's going to begin work on rebuilding that situation in Houston, which Derek White said he'll do a great job with. That's all for this edition of the Garden Report. We are off to Atlanta. Follow our coverage of Game 6 down there on Celtics All Access and CLNS Media. And, of course, show our sponsors some love, FanDuel.com/Boston, athleticgreens.com/Boston, as well as BetterHelp.com/Garden. That's athleticgreens.com/Garden, actually. BetterHelp.com/Garden. Get a month off at BetterHelp. 5 free travel packs, as well as a year's supply of vitamin D at Athletic Greens, and a $200 bonus at FanDuel.com.